Hey, so a couple of days ago, I recorded this video about short-circuiting promises. The idea was you have a timeout and you have a bunch of promises running. If the timeout have been matched, you short-circuit and return a default value. Or if one of the promises resolved before the timeout, you also short-circuit and return that value. So it's a pretty common thing to do. But there's also another thing where you wanna keep the race going on between these promises until one of them retain the value you wanna retain, you wanna get actually. So yeah, that's the idea. You keep running them, one of them resolves with the thing that you wanted to see, then you stop the race. And this video is about implementing that. And I have here a starter code. So this is the main function that we care about. I have an array of promises. All of them will go to this JSON placeholder API. I'll fetch a to-do. I'm gonna show you how would that look like. So it's just like this. And I have an interface for that. So I'm gonna fetch from 1 to 6. Then this is the syntax I wanna use. So it's promise.race with condition. This is the response. I give it an array of promises, and this is the thing that will stop the race. This is a callback function you pass. It will be run for each time a promise is settled. If this returns a true, we stop. This is the value you wanted. If this returns false, we keep running the race between these promises. So that's the syntax I want to achieve. Now to do this, I need to add a static method into the promise constructor function. So if you go to this race, it exists inside the promise constructor. It's not inside the prototype, because when you add things to the prototype, they will just say I added okay, I will show you. Let's say I added this. So now in every instance from any promise, from the promise constructor class, constructor function, that instance will have a pointer to this. But I don't want that. I want a static method that I can use it like this. So it's also easy to do. You just do this, but TypeScript will complain. Now to fix this, I will cheat and I will show you, how to do it. Okay. So the way you do it, you use the declare global. I'm not sure the name. I'm not sure about the name, but you said this is what you use. And you only need to type TypeScript, hey, I'm adding a new thing to the constructor function of the promise. And this thing will look like this. So it's a race with condition. That's the name. And it's a generic function that accepts array of promises with that generic, and accepts also a function which stops the race that's retaining a value. So now the only thing you need to do is to implement that. I have a starting template here. So it accepts an array of promises and the function. So first thing, I need a way to track the status of every promise I run. To do this, I'm gonna define a map data structure. I'm just gonna copy paste code because I think it's faster and there's no point of writing every character. And this is the type of the map. So it's a map. The key is a string, which is a unique ID. We will use UUID to generate that. But the value is the promise status, which contains the promise is fulfilled and is rejected, and these are booleans. And the way we want to do this, we will subscribe to the live events, sort of speak to each promise we got, and just attach a then and a catch. And in these then and catch, we just store the status, because we know on the then callback, the promise got fulfilled. On the catch callback, it got rejected. And we need to map these promises to use the new promise with the attached callback values, or hooks, you can say, I think. So this would be, So this would be like this. So const map from properties, mapped promises equal promises.map. And I will just call it a P because I know it's a promise, and you can hover and find out. I'm gonna generate a UUID. And this will be this. And now I'm gonna say P equal P. I'm gonna map it to then and to catch. And I'm gonna do the same thing on both places, or very similar thing. Here the value will be of type T. I'm gonna say const object equal map object.get id and object.isFulfilled equal true. I'm just gonna retain the value as it is. So I'm just adding like it's similar to middleware or a hook. I'm just subscribing to that place, doing something, then retaining the execution to happen normally, or leaving the execution to happen normally. But this will complain because TypeScript thinks, hey, this could be undefined. You can just say, no, I know what I'm doing. It won't be undefined. Or you add an if statement. Hey, if object exists, do that. Yeah, some people don't like using this, but I think in our case, it should be fine. And I will do the same thing for the errors. And I will talk about the errors now. So here, what I'm doing, I'm catching any error. I'm just retaining the value. And when you go call these promises, sometimes the .then, if the promise got rejected, the catch will be called and will retain this value. This will be passed to the next .then function. So maybe in some cases you want to just throw an error here, so you also can catch it. But in our case, this does not matter in this example. But I just wanted to point that out. So in this case, I'm gonna mark it as rejected, and at the end, I'm gonna store it actually in the map. You can do this before these, because these are asynchronous. So I know this will always run before them. You can do it here or there. I think maybe here it's much more cleaner actually. We'll leave it here. But anyway, I'll just leave it here. Now at the end, I'm gonna retain an array of arrays. So this will be, I'm gonna map it to array of arrays because I need the ID of each promise. So the type of this will be an array of arrays, and each array contains a string and promise, like this. Now, we need to run arrays between all of these mapped promises. So await promise.race and pass to it the mapped promises, but we want to only pass the promises, not the IDs. So we need to map it. I know this is an array of arrays, so I'm going to just destruct. I will ignore the first value, but just adding an underscore. It will store the value in a variable called underscore, but this is just a convention that, hey, I don't care about this. So I'm giving it the array of promises. Now I will call our result, our function, with the result. If this returns true, that's perfect. We just retain the result. This means we got the value we wanted. Let's stop the race. Otherwise, we need now to create a new array of promises and filter the settled promises. A settled promise, it's a promise that is either rejected or resolved. To do this, I'm gonna copy paste the code and explain it. So we have the map promises. We need to filter them. I will just get the ID, get the object that contains the status for each promise. And I'm gonna say, hey, if it's either fulfilled or rejected, which means settled, just don't put it, because we are done with that promise. And then at the end, I'm just gonna map that to only retain the promises. And at the end, I'm just gonna call the function recursively with the new promises. And that's it. So let's go and test this. So if I run it once, let's go add a console log maybe here, just to see how many promises are being run before we get our result. So length will be next call promises with length. So npm run there. Okay, 2 of them got, or I think 3 got settled. Then we got our result, which is nice. We can keep running them. We will get all sort of results here, which is expected because there is a race between them. In this case, the value we got resolved the first, and we got it. So that's nice. But let's go simulate some kind of a delay, or let's start with a delay. So if the ID is 1, which is the thing we are looking for, I'm gonna create a promise and await it. It will resolve after 201 milliseconds. And now if I run the script again, so now all of them are being run, and the final one is resolving with the value we wanted. So yeah, this proves that there is actually a race, and we are stopping the race based on a condition. And another thing we can simulate is an error. So if the idea is to, for some reason, your code throws an error, this will fail now, and we have to fix it. I will run it again, because I don't think you saw that from my face. I'll double check. Yeah, okay. So this will say, hey, I can't read properties of ID of undefined. This points to this place here, because in case of any error, or sorry, we are racing these promises, and the result could be anything that got settled from the promise, so it could be an error. So what we can do, because we don't care about errors, we say, hey, if the result is an instance of error, don't do anything, don't call the result function. Run this, and we get the result we want. Perfect. Another thing we can simulate is a promise being rejected. So in this case, when we reject a promise, the catch will be called, and this value will be returned. The error or the message from the rejection will be returned as a value for the .then, which will be passed here. In our case, you can just do this. So always check if the value exists. If the value exists, and the data is what we wanna, just continue. So yeah, that's basically the idea. I think there is a package that does that. I will try to find it and link it. I think it will make the code. I mean, you can also do this. You might want to do more extra work for the errors if you care. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The code will be in the description. See ya.